Hey everyone, and welcome to this new Patchnotes discussion. It has been a while, there haven't been too many interesting patches out lately, but now we finally have a new one, and it is patch 7.07 with the Starcaller and Magician rework, some Ukraine language release, I don't care about this one, and some balance changes that might be interesting. As always, we're just gonna skip through the important parts, and that's where I wanna start, which is game balance. First of all, we have hybrid. Some changes to hybrid, I have no clue. I don't play hybrid. So we start with the interesting part, the king. And we have some buffs here to Frost Chain. We have bounce speed buff. We have a little bit of damage buff, a little bit of a nerf as well for boss waves, which I kind of dislike. I do like the buffs because Frost Chain is by far the weakest king spell, but it was very unique and good against bosses, and I think that was somehow at least one little plus point for Frost Chain. And now the reduction, the slow duration, is quite huge. I just like this drastic nerf to Frost Chain because it is a bad spell overall already. Next time we have some bounce speed increases to Lightning Hammer as well, and which I don't like, once again, Immolation, Judgment, and Lightning Hammer all getting nerfed by 2%. I already think the king is weak as fuck, way too weak. You die to super small leagues at the moment. I really dislike all those king changes made lately. Let's continue with the Legion spells. Embargo, you nerf it 85 to 80, both Mythium and Gold. I think it's a very good change. Embargo is very strong at the moment. You can pick it quite often, especially if there's no aggressive answer for 11-12. Embargo is a really good choice in a lot of cases. So I do like this change. Next on Giant Snails. Personally, I did like them. I still do like them. I just like the idea behind it, having some buff for the whole game. So sometimes a spell might impact the game and the game's ending on 11, for example, with All Out of Assault. With Giant Snails, you kind of prepare for a longer game to have this pressure a longer time. So I like those changes. I think it was already in a fine spot, but Giant Snails definitely a good king spell, Legion spell in quite some situations. Next on we have a huge nerf in Guardian Angel, reducing the revive health by 150. I think it's a little too much, especially since Guardian Angel has more or less a flat amount of value, since your unit always comes back with 1.5k HP now. Obviously they can heal, or units like a Lioness, they might get extra reduction in damage, but on the majority of units you basically have 1.5k HP that you gain, while other spells mentioned, like Pulverizer especially, or Villain, have huge late game potential. They might not be that strong on wave 11. Pulverizer can be very good there already, but in a late game where you're possible to stun, for example, one unit on 18, this is just massive compared to Guardian Angel. So I don't really see why you have to nerf it that hard and leave others like Pulverizer the same. But okay, we will see how it will work out. Personally, I think this is too much of a nerf. Next on we have Magician, and since it's a rework on Magician and on Starcaller, I'm gonna combine those two because they basically got reworked the same. So we had Magician Aura, gave 20% bonus mana regeneration and mana gain, and we have the Starcaller with 30%. And what's gonna change now is from the percentual effect we move to a flat effect. which means instead of 20% mana regeneration mana gain, we now have 0.3 mana regeneration per second. What does this mean? We're going away from the magician bonus is based on the mana regeneration of the unit, since some units have different time where they generate mana. For example, an atom has a mana regeneration of 0.5 per second. Other units have mana regeneration from 1 per second. So magician was differently strong on those units, and now magician is equally strong on every unit. At least the amount of regeneration is equally strong, and it all determines now about how much is the spell, how much does the spell cost, and obviously how effective is the spell. So if you have a spell for 2 mana, for example, but it deals 10 damage, it's not as effective as a spell for 4 mana and 50 damage. So this is now the criteria you have to look at. One more important thing is the aura does not work on Agnes anymore. So before you had mana gain, which means that if you have an angler and you have magician on it and you have extra mana gain, and usually if the angler would get a stack, 1 stack, with magician it got 1.2 stacks. So this is now removed and there's no more mana gain on those units, which I kind of like because Agnes are in a too good spot already. So we have 0.3 mana regeneration per second on magician, and we do have 0.5 mana regeneration per second on Starcaller. So those are the changes, and obviously due to that we have a lot of changes to the units that take mana. And I don't want you to be like a little bit of distracted by those numbers, because you might now have a look at, oh, proton 782%. That sounds massive, but the unit is still shit with magician, don't get me wrong. The percentage here only shows you how much better the new magician is compared to the old magician. But this doesn't mean that if the old magician was bad, the new magician is good. This can as well just mean the old magician was like super bad and the new magician is still really bad, but in numbers it's still 800% almost better. So overall, on all those units, there's a few you have to have an eye on that can be interesting, which is, in my eyes, Zeus is one of them, 250 extra %, because Zeus has low spell cost, plus the spell damage is quite high, especially it's getting buffed later on, we will have a look at it, and it's still an affordable unit, so you don't need too much gold to fill the circle. So I think Zeus can be a really good one. Head Chef already, Head Chef is getting buffed over and over and over again lately. So this extra mana can really help out on the really nice spell the Head Chef had, the heal. And something else I'm a little bit scared about is Sacred Steed and Pegasus. So you basically generate more mana on the Sacred Steed and the Pegasus with a new Magician, new Starcaller. With the Starcaller, obviously those percentages are a little bit higher. And you do have a powerhouse of Sacred Steed with Magician and Starcaller now, and they just give so much useful mana to big units that got nerfed with this change. For example, Soulgate, Hellgate, or Starcaller. But the change towards Steed and Pegasus being really strong now, with those spells, it might be a little bit of a tough situation, and I can personally imagine some balance issues like this. I think personally, units that profit from are probably gonna be Zeus, Head Chef, and Violet. Radiant Halo as well, because Halo is just super strong. If you have it full buffed, and Desert Pilgrim might be worth to watch at. Obviously I did not test them out yet, so I can't comment too much on it. But that is the unit I will have an eye on. and I'm really afraid about Sacred Steed and Pegasus. I do like the change that Hellgate and Soulgate are not that OP with it anymore. I'm still unsure about the Great Boar changes, but I will comment on this more later on. We can have a quick look at the Starcaller stats. So we see it here, for example, instead of 780%, now we have Proton with 880%. Like, this is massive numbers. Here, for example, the Zeus, 300%. Just, I would personally keep an eye on those units I named. Maybe some others I didn't see yet will be really strong with the new changes as well. I'm just afraid about Sacred Steed and Pegasus. Alright, let's continue. We have Vampire getting some buffs to Spell, Vamp, and Lifesteal. I do like this. It's kind of underused at the moment. So I think it's fine. Maybe we see more doubles without Butcher. We see more Phoenixes. I really do like Phoenix at the moment with some nice buffs. So I do like those changes. Same as for Boss and Consort. You have a really nice change. Boss and Consort, super strong unit in the early game. It's not too bad on 3 actually. It's really strong on 4, good on 5 and 6. So you have a powerhouse on those weights plus the passive. Usually it's hitting the wrong unit, but sometimes you get lucky and snipe out some sense. So that's some really nice effect as well. I really do like the changes. It was strong, very strong actually, and the changes are not too drastical to kill it. I do like it. Now coming to one of 2 changes I really dislike in this patch, which is Angler's maximum mana is getting increased from 75 to 100. And here's why I dislike it. First of all, Anglers, and especially Kingpins, that are getting nerfed by the way, which is totally necessary, are broken at the moment because the stats are just free. You overpay, like you get way too much stats for what you pay. Before you did overpay when you did 0-stack Kingpin, now we just get stats for free, which is unbalanced as fuck. So now you buff a unit that is already strong, and the worst part about all this is if you want to collect your Angler stats in the early game, the stacks, sorry, you usually have the problem you build a Bounty Hunter and an Angler, and then around wave 7 you kind of have to upgrade the second Angler to get all those stacks from wave 7, because in wave 7 you can, without Ascend, get 20 stacks. And usually you want those 20 stacks, and your Angler has to be upgraded because otherwise he won't be able to get all those stacks. With an increase of the maximum stack pool or maximum mana pool of an Angler, now you can just not upgrade it and build 125 gold into good units for 7. So you A, increase the chance of holding there, B, increase the chance of protecting the Angler to get more stacks, and you just have better units for the next few rounds, because a Bounty Hunter is underwhelming in stats at least. So you take the weak wave from a unit that is already broken and just turn it into a non-weak wave or just some non-negative stats. And this is why I really dislike it. I would have actually liked if you reduced the Angler stats from 75 to 50 to make it more of a vulnerable choice in the early game. Do I go for the do I go for the Bounty Hunter and harm myself even more with that much value in bad units? Or do I rather not take those stats and hold? So that would have been the right choice in my eyes. Next on, Kingpin health getting reduced. Who could have known? Kingpin being totally broken. Those 100 health won't help a lot. You have to either reduce damage or the health even more. The thing is, if you reduce health even more, it's getting less of a tank, which you kind of don't want to have since it doesn't have heal anymore. So I think the best option is to reduce the damage quite a bit. Next on, Sky Queen getting some buffs, some damage buffs, which is really needed. Sky Queen is not played at all at the moment because it's probably one of the worst units in the game, followed, no, only Ranger's worse, but we will address that in a second. So I really do like those changes, especially damage increase is really nice. So you can combine with a Tempest or later a Leviathan better, and you get some better stats out of it. I do like it, but Sky Queen is actually having a negative effect with the new Starcaller and the new Magician, even though it is very minor. Next on we have Ranger buffs, getting 1 damage, it's nice. Ranger are super trash unless you go for the Daphne, and you only need Daphne for boss waves and late game. So this is a cheap unit you kind of only want for late game, which doesn't serve the purpose. I'm pretty sure 1 damage won't do that much of an effect. I'm pretty sure at least 2 damage, maybe some health on top would have been needed to make Ranger be played regular. We will have an eye on it. Let's see. But what I do like is the Daphne change. Actually, I think rather give Ranger a little bit more damage than the Daphne, because the Daphne actually has some useful stats. But another 2 damage on the Daphne might be allowing Daphne to soon become an opener. Probably one more buff needed, but then you might have Daphne as an opener. It deals a lot of good damage, but obviously it doesn't tank that well. So let's see. I do appreciate changes that go positive in direction buffing Rangers. We will have a look on it, how it turns out in the end. Next on we have Bazooka damage buffs. I like it. Bazooka is super underwhelming. And here it is. I already said it before. You have Sue's mana buffs with Magician and Starcaller, and now you even have a damage buff. And this slowly makes Sue's a powerhouse, because you have another 5 damage, which is not bad. You have good synergies with Steed because of the small mana pool of Sue's. You have now good synergies with Magician and Starcaller. Daphne getting some buffs. So before we had some Zeus Daphne APS comps that were played 1 season ago or 1.5 seasons ago. Maybe that comes back. I would really like it. I do like Zeus as a unit. It's just falling off a little too hard. But now with the buffs on the damage and on the mana regeneration, it might be a cool unit to have a look at. And in the same breath, you take some power away from the Pyro, put it into Bazooka and Zeus. I really do like it. Other way around, not like Zeus, who's strong in the early game. Pyro is basically strong the whole game. It has the weak waves, where it is just naturally bad because of AoE, but overall it has a lot of strong waves, and I do like the nerf. Next on, we are addressing a problem. I don't want to say it's a problem, because the Deepcoiler is a strong unit, but I love it because of its identity, but it is a little bit too strong probably. So I do like those small nerfs on the Sea Serpent and on the Deepcoiler, and what happened is a little bit of health reduction, fine, a little bit of damage reduction as well, it's fine, but the identity of Deepcoiler is, yes, you can snipe ranged sense, but also in 2 shots, wave 7 and 8. And I personally think if you somehow make the 2-shot not exist anymore, you kind of kill a lot of the identity of the Deepcoiler. So I really do love this change, making the Deepcoiler still 2-shot, wave 7 and 8, and only with the mole on 8, the Deepcoiler actually now needs 3 shots. So I do like this attempt to nerf Deepcoiler while not killing it. So thumbs up for this change. I really do like it. Next on, we have Eternal Wanderer and Samurai, both getting damage nerfs. Crazy. I personally only use it for splitting and in some situations where I need huge fortified armor and a little bit of damage. Not a big fan of the unit, and I didn't feel it was too broken. Somehow it is. We'll have an eye on it. I'm not sure, like we had some health nerfs on the Wanderer already last patch, now some damage nerfs, and personally I really felt like Wanderer's HP nerfs already hurt it a little bit. I leaked quite some games where I played Wanderer, because you lose a lot of HP. Not a big fan of it, but if it is such a high win rate, maybe it was needed. Next on, we have the Butcher and the Head Shift, both health buffs. It's fine. I do like the Butcher buff, so you can play it in the early game more often. And Head Shift now getting 3.6k HP. This is, I think, the third buff in a row. And we have this buff, we have the Magician and Starcaller buff on Head Shift. It's going to be a really strong mid-game unit, because slowly even units that you usually don't want to pair with Head Chef become, interesting. For example, usually you don't have Lioness and Head Chef, but maybe now this is actually a play you want to go for, or a Windhawk, because you have Head Chef with good stats, you have heal, and you still do have this regeneration. Really looking forward. Could be really cool. Lost Chieftain getting huge HP nerf. It's fine. The thing with Lost Chieftain is, personally, I feel like as long as you cannot select the target of the buff, and then you can hardcore nerf the amount of HP a Lost Chieftain gives, it is just very situational, because you kind of have to adapt your build around it. And that's why Chieftain got like buffed 10 times in a row. Then it spiked because it was just fitting good in the meta, while a lot of other comps got nerfed. It was way too strong stats wise, and people just didn't play it out of they never played it, and then sometimes they realized it's broken. So Chieftain spiked 2 patches ago, and now it's gonna be nerfed 5 patches till no one plays it. And this is the usually up and down this Chieftain will have, unless you probably rework it. That's my opinion about it. Next on Elite Archers, I do love some attack speed changes. Elite Archers, personally underwhelming. You need huge tank line for it to be successful in your game, or to reach the game into very, very late. I do like the unit though, somehow. Like, it's not one of my favorite units, but I kind of like the idea behind it. Having a unit that relies on a huge split. So I do appreciate those changes. Next on, some Sandbatcher damage and health nerfs. Doesn't look too strong of a nerf. I think it's fine. It's fine. Sandbatcher and Iron Scales, they are insane arcane tanks, and I do love them. And I think those changes are fine in case they were too strong. We already discussed the Starcaller, so gonna dodge that one. Next time I'm gonna concentrate on those, because then I can have my last words about the Hydra. This change is awesome, because you reduce the OP power from Boa's Red Eyes with Starcaller Magician, but now increase the power on its own, and you have mana regeneration while charging plus 6%. This equals to a damage buff of 6% with splash damage, and this is insane. So now you have Red Eyes, you don't rely on any combo anymore, you can just play it with AoE, and you have quite a bit amount of damage. I love it, because I'm a big fan of Red Eyes, especially with AoE combos like Mask and Aquas. So I really love this change. And I can see why it was too strong with the Starcaller aura. And same happens for Soul Gate, so they're a little bit stronger on themselves, which is great because they're super underwhelming on themselves. Only with buffs you should play them. So I really do like those changes. But second change I really dislike here is the following. We have Hydra, and if you watch my streams regularly, you know that the Hydra is fucking broken at the moment in the early game. And this is totally not understandable for me, why you can make a unit so broken and basically get a free win in 80% of the cases if you have a full stacked Hydra in the early game. So I do like that damage and health are getting nerfed, but 2.5% Hydra is still broken. It has, or it had, 20 HP per gold in the full stacked state, which is a lot, as you can imagine. So 2.5% won't change shit here. And here's the part what I really dislike. So now you reduce the penalty of a earlier hatched Hydra. This basically means you lose the fear of hatching your Hydra earlier, because you're not getting punished that hard. Yes, of course, a 2-stacked Hydra, like a hatched Hydra, and the egg hatches right when it got placed, is still really broken in the early game. Like, it's dead, and as you win a game, most likely, if you have the full stacked Hydra, you lose a game most likely if you do have a 2-stacked Hydra. But still, why do you take away some of the disadvantages of unit like Angler and Hydra that are super OP at the moment, while those are somehow the only ways at the moment you can balance it to not be totally broken? I really dislike this. Those changes. Hydra needs way more drastic nerfs. Hydra is super broken, and you really don't want to have it like this. By the way, I hope the 20 gold per at HP per gold are right. I think I calculated it yesterday on stream. So if the codex is right, I took the right numbers. Maybe do the calculations yourself and don't take this number for granted. I think it should be right though. And yeah, Anglers rather reduce the maximum stats, I think, and Hydra just general stat reduction, because it's way too broken as it is at the moment. Otherwise, the patch looks really awesome, and I'm really looking forward to see it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a nice day, and goodbye.